G'day Year 9 students, this is a short introduction to linear inequalities, exercise 8D from your textbook. You have come across algebra where you have an equal sign and you've solved these. This is an equation where each side is equal, and linear inequality is where you have one side that is greater or less than the other side, and you've got to solve and find out what x must be greater or less than. So that's all we're doing. It's a very similar process. There are a couple of tricks which I'll show you that you need to be aware of for this exercise. So let's start off with this 5x plus 2. 5x plus 2 is greater than 17. My first step for this one would be to pop the 2 across the other side. 5x is greater than 15. I've subtracted 2 from both sides. And now I'm going to I'm going to divide both sides by x, so x is greater than 3. So far so easy. Let's move on to b. 7x equals, now I'm going to, not equals, it should be, is greater than, and I'm subtracting 6 from both sides. So if I subtract 6, I'm going to get 35 on that side. And then my next line will simply be x must be greater than 35 divided by 7, which is 5. Let's move on to c. 4x plus 3 is less than or equal to 15. My next step will be to subtract 3 from both sides, so I'll have 4x is less than or equal to, now if I subtract 3 from 15 I get 12. Therefore x, if I divide both sides by 4, must be less than or equal to 3. Let's move on to d. For d, I have 6x and I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides, so it's going to be is less than 18. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 6, so I get x is less than 3. Let's move on to e. This time you'll notice that I have x's on both sides. Now I want to gather my x's across to the left hand side, so I'm going to have 3x because I'm subtracting this x here away to get it away from that side. So I'll have 3x plus 3 is greater than 9. Now I'm going to pull the 3 across to this side here, so I'll have 3x is greater than 6. I've subtracted 3. My last step is to divide both sides by 3, and I get x is greater than 2. Now let's move on to f. Once again with this equation we have an x on both sides, so I'm going to move this x across to that side by subtracting it. So I'm going to get 4x plus 2 is greater than or equal to 8. Now I'm going to pop the 2 across to that side, so I'm going to go 4x is greater than or equal to 6, and then I'm going to divide both sides by 4, so I'll get x is greater than or equal to 6 over 4, which is 3 over 2, or 1.5. And I'm okay for that one. Okay, g. Now, I've got x here, 3x here. I'm going to pull this x over here by subtracting it. So I'll first of all get a minus 2x answer. Plus 7 is less than 4. Minus 2x, and then I'm going to go is less than, I subtract 7 from both sides, so I get minus 3. And then my final step is to get rid of this minus 2. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, and this is where you need to pay careful attention. If you divide by a negative number, this sign is going to swap around. So I'll end up with minus 3 over minus 2, but instead of x being less than it, x will be greater than that. So x is greater than minus 3 over 2, and we can say, well, therefore x is greater than positive 3 over 2, since a negative divided by a negative is the same as a positive divided by a positive. Okay, let's move on to h. 7x plus 4 is less than 2x plus 19. I don't know why I wrote that again. I want to bring this 2x over to this side. So I'm going to say that'll be 5x, because 7x take away 2x is 5x. And that will give me this. Now I need to get rid of this 4, and I subtract it from both sides, so I get 5x is less than 15. And my last step will be to divide by 5, and that will give me x is less than 3. Now we're going to move on to some slightly more challenging ones. This one here. So we're starting off with a negative x is greater than 2. Okay, now remember the rule. If I divide by or times by a negative number, and I'm going to times by negative 1, I flip my sign, and I'll get x is less than negative 2. The final question I have is for C, and I'm going to first of all expand my brackets. So 4 times 7x is 28x. 4 times positive 6 is positive 24. Minus 8 is greater than or equal to 72. I am going to gather my like terms. 24 minus 8 is positive 16. And that's greater than or equal to 72. Now I'm going to pull that 16 across by making it a negative 16. So I'm going to have 72 minus 16. So therefore 28x is going to be greater than or equal to, now 72 take away 10 is 62, and then I take away 6 more, which is 56. And then x is going to be 56 divided by 28, which is 2. And that will be my final answer for that. So I hope this gives you a good wee introduction into doing inequalities. Key thing to remember is if you're timesing one side, or if you're timesing both sides by a negative number, flip the sign. If it was a greater than, it then becomes a less than. Okay? Alright, good luck with these guys.